Hello, Namaskar and very good afternoon to all the viewers watching NCRT's live interactive session. This is Simran Singh and you have all connected with us through eVidya channel number 6 to 12, and besides this you all know that you can connect with us, you can join our live telecast through our YouTube channel, that is NCERT Official. And once again I would like to take the moment to welcome all our viewers in the third day of our online training program on digital wellness. Well, we all know in this ever changing technological era it is very important to discuss about digital wellness, and it doesn't mean that we are only talking about your online lives, but it is more about creating an impact and a balance between online and offline life. Therefore, it is important to be more aware about our digital health or digital wellness in this ever changing world, whether it's students, teachers, parents or anyone who is consuming digital space. So let's quickly have a look at the screens and try and understand the different areas we have discussed so far. So on the first day of the training program, we discussed about digital wellness, the policy, perspectives, concept and needs associated with it. On the second day, that was yesterday, we discussed about the dimensions of digital wellness. And as I just informed you that it's the third day of our online training program, so we will be discussing at length about managing digital addiction. Tomorrow the topic will revolve around ensuring well-being in the digital space. Day after tomorrow, that is the fifth day, will be about role of various stakeholders in promoting digital wellness. So this is the webpage of CIET NCRT where you can get all the information regarding the 5 days online training program, and towards the later segment of the program I will be navigating you through these areas, how you can participate in the post session activity or quiz. And you all know that if you have any of the queries in these 5 days online training programs, then you can reach out to us through our contact number flashing on your screens. It is 8800440559. Besides this, you can always write to us about your queries and we will try to address and respond to your queries on this mail ID. That is training.helpdesk@ciet.nic.in. So as of now, let's begin our conversation, and here I would like to introduce you to our expert for today's program. In the conversation we have with us Ms. Akanksha Rajguru. Namaskar ma'am, good afternoon.
Namaskar Simran, thank you.
We welcome you. Ma'am is a PhD scholar at AIMS, and viewers, you know the different mediums to which you can reach out to us and hear this session very carefully, watch it very carefully, because all the questions that we have in our post session activity, they will be made out from the different segments that we have already discussed or we will be discussing in our upcoming programs. So ma'am, as we are talking about digital addiction, so what are the different areas we are going to cover and what do we actually mean by digital addiction?
Thank you Simran. First of all, a very good evening to everyone. Hope you are all doing well and sitting in the right postures while using your digital devices, I hope. So today's session will be about managing digital addictions. So first of all, we'll look at what digital addictions include and what does it mean to have a digital addiction. So we will also discuss some signs and symptoms of digital addiction. Following which we will discuss some theories of digital addiction and ways in which we can manage these. Digital addiction refers to an excessive and compulsive use of digital devices and online services to the extent that it interferes with an individual's daily life, relationships and overall well-being. So here we need to pay attention to two things. It is excessive and compulsive use of digital devices, that could include your computer, your laptops, your smartphones, your smartwatches or even your televisions. The online services could include your internet facilities, your online shopping, online gambling websites and your OTT platforms, and it classifies as a digital addiction when it interferes with your daily life and causes some level of distress. We've heard about terms like problematic smartphone use, online gambling addiction, online shopping addiction, social media addiction, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter addiction, video games, smartphone, internet, problematic internet use, and often all these terms can be very confusing. So for better clarity, let's look at digital addictions as an umbrella term. Now, these addictions could be in terms of your digital devices. For example, your computer, smartphone or other digital gadgets such as your tablets, the addictions could be related to digital platforms, for example, Google, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, or it could be related to digital mediums. So, it could include the whole plethora of the internet or some online mediums such as your movies, shopping, video games, etc. Now that we've seen what digital addictions comprise of, let's look at what are the signs and symptoms of digital addiction. The first sign is excessive use. Spending an inordinate amount of time on digital devices or online activities, and this often leads to neglect of other responsibilities such as your interests, your hobbies, your schoolwork, your household chores, etc. Loss of control. Repeatedly attempting to reduce or cut down on your digital use without any success. So, you try and control your digital use, you try to cut down the hours, but you are unable to do so. Preoccupation. Constantly thinking about or craving about digital interactions even when you are doing some other tasks such as probably sitting in a class or doing your homework, but you are thinking about what you were talking to on your social media account to your friends or what memes you were sharing just prior to coming to school. Withdrawal. Experiencing restlessness, irritability, anger, anxiety and depression when engaging in when you get separated from your devices or when you are trying to cut down or hold back using these digital devices and online applications. Next is escapism. It refers to using your digital devices and online activities as a way to escape from real life problems. So, for example, you've had a fight with your friends, you didn't really talk about it, but you feel angry and you feel hurt. But there is nothing you can do. I mean, you don't want to talk to them. So, you come back home and you're looking at your phones and that makes you feel happy. But you're escaping the real problem. So, this is one way in which the digital addictions impact our life. Then loss of interest. Loss of interest in activities that were previously pleasurable. So, for example, if I liked painting or playing guitar previously, now because I am obsessed with my digital devices, I do not do that as often and I do not enjoy it as often either, right? Then comes negative impact on relationships. Your friends, your family members fight with you or argue with you that you are spending too much time on your digital devices and you're not spending time with them face to face. It causes a strain in your relationships and it negatively impacts your social relationships. An inability to disconnect. Have you often seen yourself opening your smartphone screens or your laptops or your other devices to check for notifications even when you know you might not have gotten any messages? So, this excessive need to compulsively check your phone again and again and an inability to disconnect is also a sign or symptom of digital addiction. Neglecting responsibility, we talked about that already. Tolerance. So, for example, I use my digital device for 1 hour and it gives me a level of satisfaction and happiness. Over a period of time, I will have to use the same device for a larger period of time, say 1.5 hours, to gain the same level of happiness and satisfaction. This is called developing tolerance. And lastly, we come to the financial consequences, that is spending excessive money on in-app purchases, on online subscriptions or gadgets. And now it is also important to note that you may experience one or more of these symptoms, but that does not mean that you are addicted to your digital device or online platforms or you are addicted. If it causes a significant impact on your life, then it may be indicative of a problem and you might need to seek professional help. Now that we've understood what are the signs and symptoms of digital addiction, we will look at some theories of digital addiction that explain what might cause these addictions. The first is the reward deficiency hypothesis, conditioning, sensation seeking, social skill deficit theory, and cognitive behavioral model.
So viewers, these are the different theories, and in case if you have any of the queries regarding the different topics that we are covering, because digital wellness, digital addiction, these have become so common areas of discussion and concepts in today's world more than ever. So it's a need of the hour to discuss and address the issues associated with it. So do mention your queries in the comment section of NCRT official, or either through the different mediums, that is our contact number and our mail IDs. Yes ma'am, we may continue.
Now we'll look at each of these theories in greater detail. The reward deficiency hypothesis. It posits that some individuals are naturally less likely to achieve satisfaction from natural rewards. These rewards could be food, water, your basic necessities. So they seek enhanced stimulation, and to do so they engage in using substances or digital devices. So there is a deficiency, and to fulfill it, they seek enhanced stimulation, which is provided by your digital devices. The next theory talks about learning or operant conditioning. For this, we need to understand one concept called reinforcement. Now, reinforcement essentially refers to either including or adding a positive or a satisfying stimulus, experience or event, or reducing a negative or an unwanted stimulus or experience in an attempt to strengthen the likelihood of a behavior occurring. So, in case of digital addiction, this can be understood like the positive reinforcement here would be this feeling of happiness and instant gratification that you get when you're using your devices, and therefore your behavior, that is this excessive engaging in digital device use, is reinforced and repeated. And what is a negative reinforcement in this context? It refers to reducing or elimination of the boredom, the loneliness, the isolation aspect that positively reinforces, that negatively reinforces this behavior, and the likelihood of you engaging in this same behavior is strengthened. Next is the sensation seeking model. Some individuals have a higher need for stimulation or sensation seeking tendencies. They get very bored with repetition and predictable experiences. They are often just looking for new experiences and are very curious, and therefore might engage in potentially risky behavior as well. So, individuals with higher sensation seeking tendencies have an increased vulnerability to problematic use of technologies and may be prone to digital addiction more than an individual who has relatively lower sensation seeking tendencies. Next, we have the social skills deficit theory. It talks about your social competence and how you interact in your social circle. So, if you do not feel confident about interacting in your social circles, you feel a little anxious, you might not feel comfortable. So, communicating through a digital device is very convenient, comfortable, and sometimes the anonymity conferred and even the distance and the way you can control the conversations, it becomes less threatening, and when it's less threatening, it's easier to communicate, and therefore you might depend on digital devices to communicate more than face-to-face interactions, which may lead to digital addictions. Next, we talk about the cognitive behavioral model. It gives us a very holistic picture as to what causes digital addiction. But the most important part of this is the maladaptive cognitions. Let's look at what maladaptive cognitions are. Maladaptive cognitions are incorrect or irregular or wrong ways of thinking that are patterns of thinking. So, in terms of your digital device use, these thoughts could be obsessive in nature, wherein you could be thinking about your phone or your smartwatch for a long period of time while you are engaging in other important activities. right? For example, and then the second example could be fewer positive feelings about oneself when online as compared to when online. So you might feel that you are better, you're more confident when you're online, whereas when you're offline and interacting face to face, you do not feel as confident and you feel like you're useless. So you feel fewer positive feelings when you are offline. Short term thinking. So you do not think about the long term consequences of excessive use, the impact it can have on your posture, on your eyes, on different aspects of your life. You're only thinking about the instant happiness that it gives you. Next is rumination. So you might be thinking about playing a game while or some memes that you saw while you were driving, or while you are engaging in social interaction. So you're constantly ruminating or thinking about your digital interactions. All or none thinking. This is a black and white sort of a thinking wherein you think in extremes. So you might say that I only feel valued and validated when I am having a conversation online or when I post something online, whereas in my face-to-face interactions I'm not so good, so I do not get validated. So this is an extreme way of thinking which is incorrect. So now in the cognitive behavioral model, we see that an individual may have an existing condition such as depression, social anxiety, impulsivity, sensation seeking or substance dependence. Now this, when combined with your maladaptive cognitions and these situational cues that could include boredom, loneliness, social isolation, lack of social support and even uncertainty at times, all these three may lead to digital addiction. Now this behaviorally manifests as excessive use, no longer enjoying activities that were once enjoyed by you, anger or agitation or restlessness when you are separated from your devices, lying about or concealing use. When someone asks you how much did you use your digital device today, you just say that I used it for an hour, which may or may not be true. So now these behavioral symptoms reinforce these maladaptive cognitions that we talked about, and it creates a vicious cycle that an individual finds very difficult to get out of, and therefore this whole digital addiction perpetuates. Now that we've learnt about what are the potential causes of digital addictions, let's look at what we can do to manage these. The first step could be to make yourself aware. Aware about what? About what digital addictions are, about the signs and symptoms of digital addiction, about how it impacts our daily life, and what are the possible interventions that you could opt for in case you have a digital addiction. Now we see that we have a lot of website based, application based or even gamified version of this information about digital addictions. But you also need to be very careful about the authenticity of the sources that you use for informing yourself about these, because it is very critical that the information that you get is correct. Next is being self-aware and monitoring yourself. We all spend a lot of time using digital devices. We also know that we have some digital wellness applications on our phone that help us keep a tab of our screen time. And other aspects of using, so there is a wellness mode as well, right? Now these awareness messages or monitoring messages can either be positively framed or negatively framed, and they have a positive impact on your use of digital devices. We will see how. If you look at the first message, it says that 3 hours and 1 minute less than last week's daily average. So that tells me that I have reduced my level of phone usage. That makes me feel happy, that makes me feel satisfied and even motivated that yes, I can further reduce my time on digital devices and online applications. The second message, if you look at, it is negatively framed. It tells me how much I have used my phone while I am driving. So it tells me about something that is a potentially risky behavior and I should not be indulging in it. So when I come to know that I have engaged in this many number of hours of phone usage while driving, I feel concerned and therefore I will try and reduce my phone consumption. So these are some ways in which self-awareness and monitoring can be done. Another way to do it is to keep a journal. So what you do is, whenever you go online or whenever you are using any device, you maintain a journal wherein you mention the number of hours or the time you spent while using the device. Then you also mention what was the task that you engaged in, or what was it that you, what were the needs that were fulfilled during those hours or during that duration. And thirdly, how did it make you feel? The activity, so you do two things. The first thing is you note down how you felt while you were doing that activity, and then towards the end of the day you also note down how you feel when you see you have spent so many number of hours using your phone or your laptop or your computer or your television. So it gives you a very good idea about where and whether the use was productive or unproductive. Next, we talk about goal setting. So if someone is using their or playing video games for 14 hours a day and they realize that, okay, now I am addicted and I need to do something about it, and saying that I am going to reduce my usage to 0 hours from tomorrow is not rational, it's not practical, right? So what we have to look here, what we need to understand is the goal is not total abstinence. It is to moderately use your devices and control the usage of your devices. Now, the goals that you set have to be very graded. So it cannot be from 14 hours you are cutting, you say that you are going to come to 1 hour or 0 hours. It has to start from 14 hours and then go to 13 and a half hours, then 12 hours, then 10 hours, and so on and so forth. The goals also need to be specific. Now these specific goals could also be a little general, wherein in the first case, if you see, you set a very generic screen time goal, wherein you say I will not increase my, I will not engage in use of digital devices for more than 6 hours, right? So that is a very general goal. What another alternative is to set timers on different applications. So that will help you keep a tab on how much time are you spending on different apps. So these are the ways in which you can set specific goals. The goal should be measurable. The goal should be achievable. Should not be like I am going to use my smartphone or my video game for 15 minutes if I play for 14 hours. They have to be relevant and they have to be time bound. Next, there is something called a digital nudge. A digital nudge refers to the use of user interface design elements to guide people's behavior in a digital choice environment. A little complicated, let's break this down. Use of a user interface design element. So these could be in the form of reminders or notifications or even modes that guide your behavior in a digital space. So for example, if you can see the bedtime mode, it is a mode in which your calls will be muted, your alerts and notifications will be muted, and other sounds that might disrupt your sleep cycle will be taken care of or will be muted for a particular duration of time while you are sleeping. Now what this does is, it gives the user an option to engage in a healthy behavior, but to turn off or turn on the mode is the user's choice. So it provides a level of autonomy while also ensuring that some nudge or some push is provided towards a healthier behavior. Next is something called cognitive tasks. These are very interesting. So do you often find yourself scrolling through your notifications, scrolling through your reels or memes or even short videos, and it's an unconscious cycle? You cannot stop. You go on for hours on end and there is no end to it. So these cognitive tasks are essentially used to degrade the interactivity of the applications. Now, why do we scroll through apps for hours on end? Because it's very convenient. Every 2-3 minutes I see new content. Every time I refresh my screen I see new content. So this interactivity of the applications is degraded by something called a lockout task. Now what is this lockout task? It will suddenly freeze your screen or pause your screen for some time, or it will ask you to enter 10, 20 or 30 digits to resume your session. So what it does is, it breaks down this habit of unconsciously frequently accessing your device, and therefore helping you come to the present and realize that, oh, I have used so much, I've spent so much time on this application. So one such example is the lock-in type, and researchers found that it was a very effective lockout intervention in reducing usage of certain smartphone applications. Now the next step would be to identify triggers. You often notice that there are some situations in which you might use your smartphones more often or more frequently. So for example, you might feel like using your smartphones when you're feeling very bored or when you're very lonely, or when you've had an argument with someone and you just don't want to talk to anyone, so you just come back and you feel happy using your smartphone. So these are potential triggers. This loneliness, the boredom, the argument, the inability to resolve your conflict, they might act as potential triggers to smartphone usage. Once you identify what these triggers are, it is very easy to then consciously work on and reduce your smartphone usage or your usage of other digital devices or online platforms. Next, we talk about behavioral modification. So I've come back from school now, and by the time I'm served lunch or I eat lunch, from the time that I eat lunch to the time that I'm going to eat my dinner, I am going to either sit on my laptop, watch some television, or spend some time on my phone, right? So what you do instead, now that you know or you feel like you might be addicted, you force yourself to practice the exact opposite. So you tell yourself that I might go for a run for an hour, or I might paint, or I might play my guitar for a little bit. So you engage in alternative activities like these. So this leads to development of new hobbies and also helps you break that pattern of usage of your digital devices and online platforms. Cognitive restructuring. Now this is a very important way to deal with digital addictions. You remember we talked about the cognitive maladaptive cognitions. These are also referred to as cognitive distortions, and these are irrational and negative patterns of thinking. We've discussed some examples. So now what you do in cognitive restructuring essentially is that you identify these cognitive distortions for your own self, and then you put this thought under a microscope, right? And then you challenge the thought. So for example, a thought could be that I am only valued and respected when I am using an online device, whereas or I am on a social media platform, or when I am interacting with my friends on my gaming website, and I don't feel as respected or valued when I am interacting with my peers on a face-to-face basis, and I don't feel loved, and nobody loves me offline, but online I am a hit, everyone loves me. So how do I challenge this thought? I ask myself, are there any situations online where I did not feel valued or respected? Then I also think about times where I felt respected, valued and appreciated in an offline setting, where my friends, my teachers, my parents have loved me unconditionally and respected me and valued my opinions. So when I challenge that thought, this unconscious cognitive distortion or this maladaptive pattern of thinking breaks, and I create a more balanced thought that I am valued and appreciated and respected, irrespective of whether I am interacting with someone on an online medium or face to face. That's how you can cognitively, you can restructure your cognitions and improve your well-being, and also well-being with respect to your excessive use of your digital devices. Next is something called mindfulness. Now, you might have heard a lot of people say that you need to be more mindful when you're using your devices. What does it mean? It means the full, direct and active awareness of what you are doing when you are doing. To be present in the here and now. Now, what does this do? This regulates some addiction related distressed emotional states, and it also helps you recognize the intrinsic value of life instead of these superficial rewards that we get or these superficial gratifications that we get. Now, it's very easy to say that be mindful when you're using your devices, but when I'm scrolling through my phone, it is often very difficult. For us to even understand that we are doing something, and to become mindful about it is a different story altogether. So how do we do that? We do, so I'll tell you some techniques that might help, and one such technique called the grounding technique is that you clap, or you rub your palms, or you stomp your legs. Now what happens is, when you do that, you feel some sensations, you feel some sounds, you can hear some sounds, or what you can do is just close your eyes and hear some sounds in the background. Consciously focus on individual sounds. So what this does is it brings you to the present, it brings you to the here and now, and then it's easier for you to break this unconscious cycle of excessively using your smartphone devices. Now you'd say, I've done everything, but nothing is working for me. I cannot control my time that I spend on digital devices or your online platforms. What is it that I can do? What is it that I should do? I seek professional help. But what will a professional do? So they will use different therapeutic modalities to help us deal with digital addictions. The first therapy is a cognitive behavioral therapy, which is a problem focused intervention which focuses on the relationship between your thoughts, feelings and behaviors. Now, what essentially would a therapist do? They would help you engage in behavioral modification and cognitive restructuring that we already talked about, but here it would be under supervision, and there would be some sort of a pact between you and your therapist, wherein you would be forced or not forced, you would be more motivated to work on yourself. Another modality that they might use is called a harm reduction therapy. Now, what does a harm reduction therapy deal with? It essentially helps us identify and address personal, situational, psychological, social or occupational issues that underlie our digital addictions. Now, what does this entail? It may involve treatment of the underlying condition that we remember the existing psychopathologies that we talked about. Someone could have higher sensation seeking tendencies. Other people could have other disorders such as depression, anxiety, social interaction anxiety, impulsivity, even substance use. So, those underlying conditions will be treated. The next step or another way of going about it could be improving your interpersonal relationships and building social support, helping you resolve conflicts better, manage your stress better, because if then you will not use digital devices as a way of escaping your real life problems. And the idea is essentially to minimize the harmful consequences and prevent relapse. Another modality that a therapist could use is called family therapy. It aims at identifying some unmet psychological needs. When you are with your family or with your peer group, you might feel that your need to belong, or you need to relate to someone, or your need to be validated is not being met. So in a very comfortable, in a very safe space, the whole family could be counseled in ways in which those needs can be met. Now what would this do? This would strengthen the family communication. It would foster stronger and more positive interpersonal relationships. It would help your family members, your elders in the family, provide you a safe and an enabling space for digital exploration. So rather than restricting your digital use, you would be allowed to explore and experience the opportunities of the digital space in a more protected and a safe and a supervised environment. And the last one is to model appropriate behavior. So your parents, your teachers, even for your older siblings, they might tell you that you are using your smartphones a bit too much. But while they are doing so, or while they are telling you so, they might be engaging in excessive use of television, their laptops, their smartphone devices, or their tablets. So now it is also essential for elders in the family or even the younger generation to model appropriate behavior, so that each and everyone can learn from each other's appropriate and healthy behaviors. The next modality is something called motivational enhancement therapy. Now it is a collaborative and a non-confrontational approach to therapy. If I confront you about your digital time and I say that you're using your smartphone or your laptop way too much, you would get defensive and you would say that I don't have a problem, and that's it, and you might not feel like changing. So what this therapeutic modality does is that it evokes an internally motivated change and emphasizes on the choice of an individual by including the individual in therapy planning and making it very non-confrontational, not labeling anything. So what a therapist might do is to identify the situations, motivations and feelings for your usage of digital devices and online platforms, and also recognize the consequences that it has on your day-to-day life, and in such a way internally motivate an individual to bring about a positive change in their life. And this would be done by creating an individualized treatment plan with attainable goals that we already talked about. The last modality is are some positive psychology interventions. Now what are they aimed at? They are aimed at promoting self-growth and nurturing yourself. So it makes you more aware about your own self. It makes you aware. It makes you have more positive feelings about yourself, about your own abilities, about your own capabilities. Identifying them, what could be done is the therapist could tell you to write down, or even tell your family members or your near and dear ones about your strengths and capabilities. Fostering a sense of gratitude, being thankful for whatever you have, fostering forgiveness, cherishing and rekindling relationships. Now this could mean calling your relatives or just writing a letter to an old friend, just or going and meeting your friend for a cup of coffee. So prioritizing face-to-face interactions over, or even the letter example. So even the old or primitive methods of communicating over the more recent ones. And the last is rebuilding hopes and aspirations, and making you realize realize your future goals, and how spending time on digital devices is not helping you achieve those goals for a longer period of time. So with this, I'd like to conclude my presentation. So we talked about what digital addictions are, what are the signs and symptoms of digital addiction, and what are the steps and strategies that you can take to reduce your usage of digital devices and potentially also reduce your vulnerability to digital addiction. Thank you.
Thank you so much for connecting with us and sharing these important insights that I think are really very valuable, especially for our young ones, the young generation who have been using a lot of mobile phones or are tech savvy in these days. So there are certain questions that arises in my mind, if you allow me.
Sure.
So the first question regarding digital wellness or digital addiction, I should say, is now to where to draw the line that I am falling a prey to sort of addiction. We all use mobile phones, and somewhere there are people who are having a desk job. They need to use or the screens or the laptops for at least 7 to 8 hours a day. Now, am I digitally addicted to my laptop or my cell phone or something else, any other device, if I am doing a job?
So like I said, your digital addiction is a very subjective term. I could be addicted to a digital device or an online platform even if I am engaging in it for 2 to 3 hours, and I might not be addicted to a device even if I am using the digital space for say 12 hours. Now what is the thing that makes the difference, Simran, is that how much it affects or impacts your life and how much distress is it causing you. Right? So that is one crucial aspect of digital addiction.
Yes.
Now, where to draw a line? Someone who has no option but because they have a desk job and they might have to engage in use of digital spaces for a longer or an extended period of time, for them to engage in those substitution activities that I talked about is very critical. And also to separate their workspace from their personal and home space is critical, wherein once you're out of your office, it should remain there, and once you're back at home, you need to focus on your face-to-face interactions. So that balance has to be curated by individuals, and that's what we're attempting to do. We're trying to make them aware of what digital addictions potentially look like and how they can prevent themselves from falling prey to it.
All right, thank you for answering that. Now, there might be some people among us who are in this denial of not being digitally addicted when they are actually. So, how they can be helped by the peers around them, by their parents or anyone?
So, a lot of times the peers, so again, awareness is key. The moment we make the masses aware of what are the potential problems and signs, symptoms, warning signs, you become more vigilant.
Yes.
And then what you can do is you can refer them to counselors, to professionals, to your school teachers, and you know, the parents could take the children to seek professional help. So the idea is to make them aware that a problem might occur, and even if they are in denial and someone else sees that there are some warning signs, so they talk to them, but in a very non-confrontational way, so that they don't become defensive.
All right.
And having a conversation about it is the first step to go, I think.
All right. And this digital addiction, which I think we can call it the new disease that we are facing these days. So, can it go up to like from the very young ones to the very old ones?
Precisely. I know some people who, I know some very young kids who do not eat food without their tablets and their laptops. So, I think it is beyond age now.
Yes.
It is a persistent problem for all age groups, I'd say.
So, it might create a severe impact on our physical well-being as well as mental well-being.
Precisely.
All right. Is there anything else you would like to share with our viewers? Any piece of advice from your end to everyone who's watching this program?
My only advice would be to be mindful while you're using applications or your devices. And something that helps me is to separate your workspace with your home space. So even if I'm working from home, sitting on that table is where I work, and when I move to my couch or my beanbag or my bed, it's no more work. So no work, no laptop, no office work can happen on the bed. So what it does is it helps us to draw a virtual boundary of sorts and help us better deal with the fast-paced digital world, I'd say.
So I believe that by this we can infer that it is our very own responsibility
Yes.
of owning up to the fact that whether or not I am digitally addicted, and where should I draw a line, and what suits me better.
Precisely.
Thank you so much once again for connecting with us.
You're welcome.
And viewers, as promised, this is the third day of our online training program on digital wellness. Let's quickly have a look at our screens to understand more about our post-session activity. So this is the web page of CIET NCERT. All you have to do is on Google you have to type www.ciet.nic.in and you will land on this page. Now there are several options mentioned for you. Let's click on events. The third last option says workshop/training. Once you click on it, just scroll down. There are three kind of activities: the upcoming ones, the ones who are already completed, and the current activity. So it's the third day of the program. We have it for 5 days. So it is current activity, the online training program that we are conducting on digital wellness. So I have clicked here, and this is the page where I have landed upon. Now there are different aspects or the areas regarding the training program mentioned for you. This is the detailed banner for your information regarding the timing, the day, the dates, the topics that we are going to cover. Then the objective of the training program, they are quite clear: to make you more aware and comprehend the different policies and the perspectives of digital wellness, and explaining the best practicing ways through which we can be safe and sound even in the digital space. Now this information is particularly regarding the post-session activity or the quiz that we have. Whether it's students, teacher educators, parents, administrators or general public, you can all participate in our post-session activity. Let's scroll down and see this is the program schedule. Now the day, against the dates, the title of the programs, the esteemed resource persons who connect with us and share their expertise and extensive experience with this field. Then the banners and the presentation links and the video links. The presentation links will be soon uploaded. And today we discussed about managing digital addiction. Tomorrow it's going to be about ensuring well-being in digital space. And on the concluding day, we will discuss about the role of various stakeholders in promoting digital wellness. Let's scroll down. Now all these informations here itself, the different steps laid down for you are regarding the quiz. Now how you can participate? The first one is registration. Register yourself by clicking on this link or by scanning this QR code. Now you can watch our live training program either on eVidya channel number 6 to 12 on NCERT official YouTube channel or the different mediums mentioned for you. Now participation in post-session activity and certification. The participation in this quiz, and if you score over 70% and above, you will receive a certificate. The quiz link will be uploaded by 6th of October 2023 at 6 p.m. The assessment opening date will be the same, and the closing date by which you may submit your entries, you may submit your answers, is 27th of October 2023. Participants are allowed to attempt the quiz only once. I am emphasizing this, that only once, that is only a single time you will be able to participate and attempt the quiz. So be very thoughtful, and those scoring 70% and above with the quiz will receive a certificate of participation on their registered email ID within 30 days of taking the post-session quiz. We keep on saying this, that your feedback matters a lot, so do write to us, do fill this Google form, and by scanning this QR code you may share your valuable feedback with us. And you all know that in case of queries, you can reach out to us through our help desk mail ID flashing on your screens. It is training.helpdesk@ciet.nic.in. Either you can give us a call at this number, that is 8800440559. And before wrapping up this program, an important piece of information regarding the availability of NCERT textbooks that we keep on flashing in the diverse programs that we conduct throughout the day. You all know that for this academic year 2023 to 2024, NCERT textbooks, they are widely available all across the country. You may purchase them directly from the different sales counters of NCERT, Also, you can place an order online for these particular textbooks, and in case if you would like to download the textbooks in the PDF or the soft copy version, that is also possible through different mediums, being it Diksha platform, ePathshala website, or NCERT's official mobile application. In order to explore more about the availability of NCERT textbooks for different subjects and classes, and also about authorized vendors, feel free to explore the website of NCERT, that will be www.ncert.nic.in. Once again, thanking all of you for connecting with us in the third day of our online training program. Do not go anywhere, because next up we have our session of Sahyog, guidance for mental well-being and psychosocial support to all the students, viewers who keep on connecting with us and watch our programs on the regular basis. And viewers, this was the third day of our online training program. Tomorrow, right at the same time, 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. It's day 4. We are going to discuss about ensuring well-being in digital space. Today it was all about managing digital addiction. So stay connected and keep watching eVidya channels, and do not forget to connect with us for the fourth day, that is tomorrow, for this training program. And stay tuned. Namaskar.